welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Or, I might show up at your door. I'm just here to share some creepy stories, so sit back and enjoy. Disclaimer: the content presented in the video is purely for entertainment purposes only. The theories and stories discussed in this video are speculative and are not supported by any evidence or proof. Viewer discretion is advised. Research Station Log, North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date: December 14, 2023. Recording scientist: Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. I'm starting this log as a supplementary record to our standard data collection. Station Director Palmer insisted all section heads maintain personal observations after yesterday's incident. He called it covering our bases, but the tension in his voice betrayed deeper concerns. For posterity, North Ridge is a state-of-the-art atmospheric research station nestled in the Cascade Mountains, housing 18 researchers, 2 support staff, and our military liaison. We study high-altitude weather phenomena, climate patterns, and, lately, unusual electromagnetic disturbances. Most of us assumed our military funding came with standard bureaucratic oversight. None of us expected Captain Vega to arrive in person 3 weeks ago. The electromagnetic anomalies started small, patterns in the atmospheric readings that defied conventional meteorological models. Data spikes during the pre-dawn hours that our equipment couldn't properly categorize. We thought we were documenting an undiscovered weather pattern until yesterday morning, when Palmer and 2 technicians failed to return from the exterior monitoring station. I was in the main lab when Jared came running in, his breath fogging in front of his face. The heating had malfunctioned again, and the facility was dropping to uncomfortable temperatures despite the backup systems. "Elias," he panted, clutching a printout. "You need to see this." I took the paper, scanning the wavelength patterns. "These readings don't make sense. The spectral analysis shows." "Not the readings," Jared interrupted, his finger jabbing at the timestamp. The time. This pattern peaked exactly when Palmer's team went to the monitoring station. The same pattern appeared 3 times before that this week. "Correlation doesn't equal causation," I said automatically, but my stomach was already tightening with unease. Director Palmer was very clear about the maintenance schedule for the exterior sensors, Jared continued, lowering his voice. "Every 3 days before dawn. Each previous spike coincides perfectly with a maintenance visit. And now they're gone." I remember staring at him, the cold air suddenly feeling much heavier. "Have you told anyone else about this?" "Just Maya. She's checking the biological sensors now. But there's something else." He pulled up his tablet, showing me the communication log. "We received a transmission 10 minutes ago. It came through on the emergency channel. The message was short. Text only. Alert. Atmospheric anomaly detected in your region. All personnel remain indoors until further notice. Repeat. Do not exit structures during PRE dawn hours." "Who sent this?" I asked. Jared shook his head. "That's the thing. It has military encryption. But Captain Vega says she didn't receive it through official channels." I called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. By then, Maya had joined us with her own troubling data. Radiation levels outside had spiked dramatically during the same window Palmer's team disappeared. Captain Vega arrived last, her posture rigid as she surveyed the room. Contrary to the military stereotype, she isn't cold or authoritarian. She's actually remarkably personable most days, but something had changed. The usual warmth in her dark eyes had hardened into calculation. "I've declared emergency protocols effective immediately," she announced before anyone could speak. "No one leaves the facility until we establish contact with Director Palmer's team or receive further instructions." Dr. Roberts from Atmospheric Composition stood up, pushing his glasses up his nose. "With all due respect, Captain, we need to send a search party. They could be injured." "Negative," Vega replied flatly. "We have protocols for this scenario." The room erupted in confused objections until I raised my voice. What protocols? This is the first I'm hearing of emergency containment procedures. Captain Vega's eyes locked with mine. That's because they weren't relevant until now, Dr. Foster. She pulled out her tablet and placed it on the table. North Ridge wasn't established solely for weather research. The electromagnetic anomalies you've been studying were first detected 3 years ago. They've been increasing in frequency and intensity. A chill ran through the room that had nothing to do with the malfunctioning heating system. What exactly are we dealing with? Maya asked, her voice steady despite the tension. Unknown, Vega replied. But similar phenomena have been observed at 2 other locations globally. In both cases, exposure during peak intensity periods resulted in... She paused, choosing her words carefully. Individuals leaving the safety of sheltered structures during the pre-dawn anomaly peak have a 0% return rate. The implications hung heavy in the air. 18 people now reduced to 15. Whatever waited outside our walls had taken 3 colleagues. Possibly more if previous maintenance trips had losses we hadn't recognized. So what happens now? Someone asked. We shelter in place, I said, meeting Vega's gaze. She nodded slightly, confirming my assumption. We maintain communication protocols, monitor the anomalies from inside, and wait for extraction. That was 12 hours ago. Night has fallen, and with it, my hope for Palmer's team. The exterior cameras show nothing but swirling mist in the valley below, occasionally illuminated by pulses of light that don't behave like any natural phenomena I've studied in 15 years of meteorological research. They move with purpose, converging and dispersing in patterns that make my scientific mind rebel against the implications. Jared has been working nonstop on boosting our communication array. The standard channels went dead 3 hours ago, just static when we try to reach our parent research institution or military contacts. Only the emergency channel remains functional, occasionally delivering terse instructions. Remain indoors. Maintain shelter integrity. Do not attempt visual confirmation of anomaly. Maya brought me coffee an hour ago, her face drawn with exhaustion. You should try to rest, she said, but her eyes kept drifting to the observation window, where distant lights pulsed in the valley below. I'm the senior staff member now, I replied. I need to keep watch. She lingered, fidgeting with her lab coat sleeve. Elias, there's something I should tell you about my research. It might be relevant to what's happening. Before she could continue, the lights flickered throughout the facility. Captain Vega appeared in the doorway, her silhouette sharp against the hallway lights. Dr. Foster, Dr. Kirkland, she said, her voice betraying no emotion. You need to see this. She led us to the monitoring station where Jared hunched over a display, his face illuminated by scrolling data. He looked up as we entered, his expression a mixture of fear and scientific fascination. It's changing, he said simply, pointing to the readouts. Whatever this anomaly is, it's evolving. And if these readings are correct, it's coming up the mountain. I stare out the observation window now as I finish this log entry. The mist is rising from the valley, carrying within it pulsing lights that cast no reflections. Tomorrow we'll need to make difficult decisions about our dwindling supplies and deteriorating shelter systems. One thing is increasingly clear. Those who left at dawn didn't just disappear. I'm starting to believe they never left at all. Research Station Log, North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date, December 15, 2023. Recording scientist, Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. I've been awake for 36 hours now. The coffee stopped helping around hour 20, but sleep feels dangerous, not just because of our situation, but because of what waits in dreams. Those few who managed to rest reported the same thing. Visions of lights moving with purpose, beckoning. I've instructed everyone to document these experiences. If there's a psychological component to the anomaly, we need to understand it. We lost Roberts and Klein this morning. The official count is now 7 survivors barricaded in the main facility. Myself, Captain Vega, Jared, Maya, our medical officer Dr. Webb, and technicians Hayashi and Martinez. The others, God, I can barely write this, the others made their choice. It happened during the night. The heating system failed completely around 2 a.m. While Jared and Martinez attempted repairs, the temperature inside the station plummeted to near freezing. Most of us gathered in the central lab, using portable heaters and emergency blankets to conserve body heat. Roberts was monitoring the exterior sensors when he called us over. The readings were unlike anything we'd seen, not just electromagnetic anomalies, but atmospheric composition changes that defied physics. The oxygen levels outside had somehow increased by 15%, and thermal imaging showed the exterior temperature rising despite the mountain air. It's warmer out there than in here, Roberts said, his breath visible in the freezing lab. And the air quality is actually improving. Dr. Webb checked his tablet, frowning. That's impossible. Those readings would make it more habitable out there than in here. Exactly, Roberts replied, a strange calm settling over his features. What if we've been looking at this backward? What if outside isn't dangerous? What if it's evolving? Adapting? Maybe even for us? Captain Vega stepped forward. Negative. We have clear orders to remain inside. Orders from whom? Klein challenged, emerging from the shadows of the lab. The normally quiet geologist had been withdrawn since the disappearances began. We've lost contact with everyone except for those emergency broadcasts, and we can't even verify their source. For all we know, we're receiving automated messages from a system that doesn't know what's happening here. I tried to reason with them. Even if the readings are accurate, we don't understand what's causing them. Palmer's team never came back. Maybe they found something better, Roberts interrupted, his eyes reflecting the distant lights visible through the observation window. Maybe they understood before we did. The argument intensified as exhaustion, fear, and the freezing cold wore down rational thought. I noticed Maya had grown silent, staring at Klein and Roberts with an expression I couldn't interpret. Not fear or anger, but something almost like recognition. Captain Vega finally issued a direct order. No one was to open the external doors under any circumstances. She stationed herself by the main entrance, hand conspicuously near her sidearm. By dawn, Roberts and Klein had convinced 6 others. They disabled the emergency locks on the east exit while Martinez was attempting to restore heat to that section. Hayashi witnessed their departure. They stepped out into the morning mist as it crept up to the facility doorway, not running or panicking, but walking with purpose toward the lights in the valley below. The door sealed behind them automatically. None of them carried communications equipment. None of them left notes. The exterior cameras tracked them until they disappeared into the mist approximately 400 meters from the facility. Minutes after they vanished from view, our systems received a new emergency broadcast. This one more detailed than previous messages. Alert! Contact events occurring during PRE dawn and dawn hours, 0400 to 0700 local time. Shelter integrity must be maintained. Visual and auditory stimuli from unknown sources may induce compliance behavior. Any personnel experiencing unusual thoughts or compelling urges should be isolated and monitored. Extraction timeline, pending. Compliance behavior, Captain Vega repeated after reading the message aloud, her expression grim. They're being influenced somehow. Influenced to do what? Martinez asked, voicing the question we were all afraid to consider. I've instituted a buddy system. No one moves through the facility alone. Jared and Martinez have finally restored partial heat to the common areas, but several sections of the facility remain inaccessible due to temperatures below freezing. We've consolidated our living quarters to the central labs and adjacent rooms. Captain Vega has been oddly withdrawn since this morning's exodus. I found her in the communications room, attempting to bypass the standard channels with what appears to be specialized military equipment she brought with her. When I asked what she was doing, she only said, confirming suspicions. Before I could press further, she asked me a strange question. Do you dream of the lights, Foster? The directness caught me off guard. No more than anyone else. I lied. I didn't tell her about the voice I thought I heard in my brief moments of sleep. A voice that somehow seemed to emanate from the lights themselves. She studied my face for a long moment. I need to know if you start to. Immediately. You think we're being, what, psychologically manipulated? I asked. I think whatever is out there communicates in ways we're only beginning to understand. She turned back to her equipment. My orders were to observe and report, not to intervene. Orders from whom? Exactly? I pushed, echoing Klein's earlier question. Her pause was telling. That's need to know. 8 people are gone, Captain. I think we need to know. She finally turned to face me fully, lowering her voice. Operation Looking Glass. That's all I can say. This isn't the first sight, and it won't be the last. Before I could respond, Jared burst into the room. You need to see this. Now. He led us to the meteorological lab where Maya was staring at the monitor displaying exterior camera feeds. The mist had temporarily cleared from one section of the valley below, revealing the landscape. What we saw defied comprehension. The topography had changed. Structures that resembled geometric patterns stretched across the valley floor, glowing with the same pulsing light we'd observed in the mist. They hadn't been there 2 days ago. Nothing had been there except alpine forest and rocky terrain. It's building something, Maya whispered, or growing it. I noticed her hands were trembling, but not from fear. There was an excitement in her eyes that disturbed me deeply. Dr. Kirkland, Captain Vega said sharply. What do you know about this? Maya startled slightly, composing herself. Nothing concrete, but my research. I've been studying microbial adaptation to extreme conditions. Some of these patterns resemble cellular structures, but on a massive scale. The camera feed abruptly cut to static. When it cleared seconds later, the valley view had been obscured by mist once again. An alert flashed on the emergency channel, different from the previous messages. Dawn protocol initiated. Contact events. 8 confirmed. Integration. Pending. Remain in shelter. Integration. I repeated, the word hanging ominously in the air. As I write this log, the lights in the valley have intensified. They move with greater purpose now, occasionally sending beams that reach halfway up the mountain toward our facility. Each time they do, our instruments record electromagnetic pulses that interfere with our systems. Jared believes our communications are being deliberately jammed by whatever is down there. Captain Vega hasn't confirmed or denied this theory, but she's doubled her efforts with her specialized equipment. 7 of us remain. The facility grows colder despite our repairs. And tomorrow brings another dawn. I keep thinking about Robert's last words before they left. Maybe they found something better. I'm starting to wonder if that's what terrifies me most. Research Station Log. North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date: December 16, 2023. Recording Scientist: Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. Jared almost died today. The fact that I can write that so plainly terrifies me. We're becoming numb to horror. Morning arrived without incident. No more departures during the night, though I caught Martinez staring out the observation window for uncomfortably long periods. When I approached him, he flinched as if waking from a trance. Claimed he was just thinking. I've asked Dr. Webb to monitor him closely. The valley below remains shrouded in mist, but the transformation continues beneath that concealing blanket. Occasionally the fog parts, revealing glimpses of structures that shouldn't exist, crystalline formations that pulse with inner light, geometric patterns that seem to rearrange themselves when not directly observed. The rational part of my mind suggests they might be structures assembled by whatever intelligence lurks in the mist. The irrational part whispers they might be the transformed remains of our colleagues. Captain Vega called a meeting at 0800. Her usually immaculate appearance has deteriorated. Her uniform remains precise, but dark circles rim her eyes, and a nervous tick pulls at the corner of her mouth when she thinks no one is watching. Our communication systems are being actively suppressed, she announced without preamble. Standard channels remain inoperable, and the emergency broadcasts appear increasingly automated. We cannot rely on external extraction. The implications settled heavily. We were truly alone. "I propose we test the boundaries," Jared said, breaking the silence. All eyes turned to him. "Not by leaving the shelter, that's suicide. But we need to understand what we're dealing with. The anomaly clearly affects electronic systems and possibly human perception. We need controlled experiments from inside." Maya nodded enthusiastically. "We could use the drones. We have had 3 small atmospheric research drones for collecting high-altitude samples, each equipped with cameras, sensors, and sample collection tools. Sending them into the mist seemed our best option for gathering intelligence without risking human life." Captain Vega hesitated, then gave her approval. "But," she added, fixing Jared with a hard stare, "under no circumstances are you to open any exterior access points. Deploy remotely from the roof station only." The plan formulated quickly. Jared and I would operate the drones from the sealed roof access station, a glass-enclosed platform designed for launching weather instruments. Maya would analyze data in real time, while Captain Vega, Dr. Webb, and the technicians maintained shelter security and monitored vitals. The first drone launched at 1,023 hours. We directed it toward the valley, keeping altitude high initially. Everything functioned normally until it began descending toward the mist. The camera feed flickered, showing distorted images of the structures below. Larger now, more complex than our previous glimpses had revealed. "Try to get closer to that central formation," Maya directed through the comms. Her voice held an eagerness that seemed inappropriate given our circumstances. As the drone descended into the thinner portions of the mist, the feed began to degrade. Static bursts interrupted transmission, but between them, we caught glimpses of something massive taking shape in the valley center. A spiraling tower that appeared to be constructed from both mechanical and organic components. "The readings are off the chart," Jared muttered, eyes fixed on the sensor data. "Radiation signatures unlike anything in our database, electromagnetic patterns that shouldn't be physically possible." Then, abruptly, the drone stopped responding to commands. Its camera continued transmitting as it began moving independently, descending deeper into the mist toward the central structure. "Override," I shouted, but Jared was already trying, his fingers flying over the controls. "It's not responding. Something else has control." The last image we received before losing contact entirely, what appeared to be a field of objects surrounding the central tower. Objects that, despite distortion, looked disturbingly like human figures standing perfectly still, faces upturned toward the structure's peak. The second drone lasted barely 2 minutes before suffering the same fate. But the third revealed something we weren't prepared for. We programmed it to fly not toward the valley, but along the perimeter of our facility, checking for external damage and potential vulnerabilities. As it rounded the east side, where Roberts and the others had exited, the camera caught movement. A figure standing motionless in the thin morning light, halfway between the facility and the mist line. It was Roberts. He stood perfectly still, facing the facility. The drone's camera zoomed in on his face, revealing eyes wide open, expression blank. No protective gear despite the freezing mountain air. No visible breath condensation, just stillness. "Is he alive?" I whispered. Jared magnified the image further. "I can't tell if he's breathing." As if hearing us, Robert's head slowly turned toward the drone. His lips parted, and though our audio couldn't capture any words at this distance, we could see he was speaking, repeating the same phrase over and over. "We need to bring him in," Dr. Webb insisted when we shared the footage. "He might need medical attention." "Negative," Captain Vega responded immediately. "He's been exposed for over 24 hours. Protocol states." "To hell with your protocols," Webb snapped. "That's our colleague out there." The argument escalated until Jared made a suggestion that silenced everyone. "What if we use the mechanical arm in the external sample collection bay? We could extend it, try to establish communication without opening the doors or exposing ourselves. The sample collection bay was designed for retrieving atmospheric measurement devices, a sealed chamber with a mechanical arm that could extend up to 20 meters. Theoretically, we could use it to make contact with Roberts. Captain Vega reluctantly agreed with strict conditions. The bay doors would remain sealed, all personnel would wear protective gear, and at the first sign of contamination, we would abort and lock down the entire section. Jared volunteered to operate the mechanical arm. We suited up in what protective gear we had, mostly designed for chemical rather than unknown anomalies, and proceeded to the collection bay on the east side. Through the reinforced windows, we could see Roberts had moved closer, now standing just at the edge of the mechanical arm's range. His stillness remained unnerving. No shivering despite the cold, minimal movement beyond his slow approach. Jared powered up the system and extended the arm, equipping it with a tablet displaying a simple message. "Are you okay?" Roberts watched the arm extend toward him, head tilting slightly as if curious. When the tablet stopped before him, he studied it for a long moment before raising his hand to touch the screen. Instead of typing a response, he placed his palm flat against the display. The tablet immediately went black, then flickered back to life with new text. Text none of us had typed. Integration proceeding as designed. Return to shelter function unnecessary. Join US at dawn. The arm systems began to malfunction as Roberts maintained contact. Lights flickered throughout the bay. Displays flashed with fragmented emergency messages. Containment failure. Stage 2 authorized. Previous sites compromised. Do not trust. The messages cut off as Jared initiated emergency shutdown, severing the connection. The mechanical arm retracted violently, components smoking from electrical overload. Roberts remained outside, watching impassively. Then, without warning, he turned and walked steadily back toward the mist, disappearing within minutes. We've retreated to the central facility, sealing off the east wing entirely. Jared collapsed shortly after the encounter, complaining of severe headaches and visual disturbances. Dr. Webb has placed him in isolation, monitoring for signs of influence despite the supposed protection of our sealed environment. The tablet recovered from the mechanical arm is blank now, all data corrupted. But something else has changed. The emergency broadcast system has gone silent. No new messages since our contact with Roberts. Captain Vega disappeared into her quarters with her specialized communications equipment. When she emerged hours later, her expression was unreadable. "Foster," she said quietly, pulling me aside. "We need to prepare for the possibility that extraction isn't coming. What about your operation-looking glass contacts?" I asked. Her laugh was hollow, empty of humor. "That's just it. My last communication from command was clear. We aren't the experiment. We're the control group. Night is falling now. Maya has been analyzing samples of the corrupted data from our drones, finding patterns she claims resemble biological coding structures. Her excitement grows more pronounced by the hour. Jared remains in isolation, occasionally calling out names of people who aren't here, including those who walked into the mist. Martinez has stopped speaking entirely, and I can't shake the feeling that the lights in the valley are watching us, waiting for dawn to come again. Research Station Log, North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date: December 17th, 2023. Recording scientist, Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. The storm began at midnight. Not a natural weather pattern. Nothing about this mountain feels natural anymore. The winds howl with voices. I know that's impossible. A hallucination born from sleep deprivation and stress. But everyone hears them. Whispers beneath the gale, words just beyond comprehension. Jared's condition has deteriorated rapidly. The headaches progress to nosebleeds, then to seizures. Dr. Webb has him sedated, but the medications barely help. His skin feels cold to the touch despite his fever, and his eyes, when briefly open, reflect pinpoints of light even in darkness. Webb says it's likely neurological damage from exposure to whatever corrupted the communication system, but I saw his expression when he thought no one was looking. Pure terror. "Have you noticed anything unusual about Dr. Kirkland?" Captain Vega asked me this morning as we checked the integrity of the main facility's seals. The question seemed to come from nowhere. Besides her academic fascination with potential extinction, I replied, trying for gallows humor that fell flat even to my own ears. Vega didn't smile. She spends hours staring at the data from the drones. Not analyzing, staring. And she's been writing in a notebook she keeps hidden. I wanted to dismiss her concerns as paranoia, but truth be told, Maya's behavior has become increasingly erratic. Her initial scientific curiosity has morphed into something resembling reverence. Yesterday, I found her in the lab, meticulously recreating the geometric patterns we glimpsed in the valley using digital modeling software. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she had asked without looking up from her work. The mathematical precision, the perfect integration of form and function. Integration, the same word from the emergency broadcasts, the same word Roberts had transmitted through our tablet. Before I could respond to Vega's question, the facility's proximity alarms activated. Something was approaching from the western perimeter. We rushed to the monitoring station where Martinez sat rigid, eyes fixed on the exterior camera feed. A figure moved through the storm toward our facility. Not Roberts this time, but Klein. His movements were different, jerky, uncoordinated, as if he wasn't fully in control of his body. He carried something clutched to his chest. "He shouldn't be alive," Dr. Webb whispered, joining us at the monitor. "Not after this long in those temperatures without protection." "He isn't alive," Vega stated flatly. "Not as we understand it." Klein reached the western emergency door, a reinforced access point designed for equipment delivery. He stood motionless before the camera, snow accumulating on his shoulders and head. No shivering, no visible breath in the freezing air. Then he held up what he carried. A small metallic object about the size of a softball, geometric in design with softly glowing blue lines tracing its surface. "What is that?" I asked, though no one could possibly know. Maya pushed forward, her eyes widening. "It's an interface," she whispered, more to herself than to us. "How could you possibly know that?" Webb demanded. She flinched, realizing she'd spoken aloud. I don't. Just speculating based on its design." Klein placed the object against the door. The metal around it immediately began to frost over as if suddenly supercooled. Hairline fractures spread through the reinforced material, too fine to compromise structural integrity but clearly not random. They formed patterns similar to circuit boards. "Containment breach imminent," Martinez said, his voice emotionless. It was the first time he'd spoken in nearly 24 hours. "The offering has been delivered." Captain Vega drew her sidearm in one fluid motion, aiming at Martinez. "Step away from the console. Now." His face remained blank as he complied, hands raised slightly. "The integration cannot be stopped, Captain. Your orders never included prevention, only observation." "How long?" Vega demanded, her weapon steady. "How long have you been compromised?" A thin smile stretched across Martinez's face. "Compromised implies damage. I've been clarified." Webb moved to restrain him, but Martinez's next words froze us all. "Jared received the same clarity through the mechanical arm. You've kept him sedated, but he hears the call. As does Dr. Kirkland, though she fights it with her questions and theories. The signal penetrates even here." Maya backed away, shaking her head. I'm not. "The dreams," I said, suddenly understanding. "You've been dreaming of the lights too." Her denial died on her lips as the facility lights flickered. On the monitor, Klein remained motionless, the object still pressed against the door. The fracture patterns had spread, covering nearly the entire surface now. "We need to lock down the west wing," Vega ordered. "Foster, Webb, get Jared to the central lab. I'll handle these two." "And if the door holds?" I asked. "It won't," Martinez said with absolute certainty. We segregated Martinez in the communications room under guard. Maya insisted on staying with Vega, whether to prove her loyalty or from fear of being alone with her thoughts. I couldn't tell. Webb and I moved Jared to the central lab, a difficult process given his semi-conscious state and the need to keep him on forced sedation. As we settled him onto a makeshift bed, he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. His eyes opened, revealing pupils contracted to pinpoints despite the dim lighting. "They're not taking us, Elias," he whispered, voice hoarse. "They're changing us, making us suitable." "Suitable for what, Jared?" His eyes rolled back briefly before focusing again. "Transport. The structures in the valley, they're not buildings. They're vessels." A crash reverberated through the facility before I could question him further. Vega's voice came through the comms, tense but controlled. "West door compromised. Unknown substance entering. Fall back to central lab." Webb secured Jared while I sealed the lab entrances. Minutes later, Vega arrived with Maya in tow. The captain's face was ashen. "Martinez?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Broke containment. Headed for the western breach." She holstered her weapon. "I couldn't stop him without lethal force. And you chose not to use it," I noted. Her eyes met mine. "Would you have pulled the trigger on your colleague, Foster? Even knowing he might not be himself?" The question hung between us, unanswerable. "What about the object Klein brought?" Webb asked. "Still attached to the door," Vega replied. "The breach is expanding around it, not like normal structural failure, more like dissolution." Maya had gone to the monitoring systems, pulling up feeds from the western section. The camera nearest the breach showed a viscous, iridescent substance seeping through the fractured door, crawling along the walls and floor with purpose rather than following gravity. "It's a transitional medium," she said, fascination overwhelming fear in her voice. "A biological interface to help us adapt to their environment." "There?" I challenged. "You know what these things are?" She didn't answer directly. "The patterns in the data, the structures in the valley, they're not random. They're a language, a method of communication so advanced we've been interpreting it as atmospheric anomalies." "And you've been decoding it," Vega said. Not a question, but an accusation. Maya's focus remained on the monitor. "Not intentionally, but in dreams. In moments of clarity, I understand fragments." On screen, the substance continued its advance through the western corridors, accelerating as it moved. Where it touched facility systems, they sparked and transformed, not failing but reconfiguring. Martinez stood in its path, arms outstretched in welcome as it engulfed him. His expression was one of rapture. The emergency broadcast system suddenly activated, but instead of the terse messages we'd received previously, a cacophony of voices emerged, some human, some decidedly not. They spoke in overlapping patterns, creating a rhythm more than coherent sentences. "Integration Phase 2 initiated. Preparation for transport. Dawn brings ascension. All barriers temporary." The message cut off as abruptly as it had begun. In the silence that followed, we heard something new. A soft, pulsating hum emanating from the direction of the breach. The tempo matched perfectly with the lights we could see in the valley below. "They're synchronizing," Maya whispered, a note of awe in her voice. "The structures, the substance, the survivors who left, all becoming one system." Jared stirred on his bed, eyes opening. No longer pinpoints, but now filled with the same iridescent quality as the invading substance. When he spoke, his voice harmonized with the humming. "The storm will pass by morning," he said calmly. "The way will be clear at dawn." Dr. Webb checked the 4. "That's impossible. He should be completely sedated." "We need to move," Vega decided, checking the schematics of the facility. "The east wing is still intact. We can seal ourselves in the auxiliary lab." "And then what?" I asked, voicing the question none of us wanted to face. "Wait to be rescued by an organization that considers us expendable? Or wait for dawn?" "We survive," Vega said simply. "1 hour at a time." As we prepared to move, Maya lingered near the monitors, her expression torn between fear and longing as she watched the beautiful, terrible substance crawl ever closer to our position. The walls seem to whisper now as I write this. The humming grows louder with each passing minute. And outside, through the observation windows, the lights in the valley pulse in perfect rhythm with Jared's heartbeat. Dawn is just hours away. Research Station Log, North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date, December 18, 2023. Recording scientist, Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. The auxiliary lab in the East Wing has become our final redoubt. We've sealed ourselves in with whatever supplies we could carry, medical equipment for Jared, emergency rations, Captain Vega's communications gear. The rest of the facility might as well be on another planet now. The security feeds show the iridescent substance has claimed nearly 60% of the structure, transforming everything it touches into something that resembles our technology but clearly serves a different purpose. Sleep is impossible. The humming penetrates even here, vibrating through the walls at a frequency that resonates in the base of the skull. Dr. Webb says prolonged exposure to such frequencies could induce neurological changes, as if we needed another threat to our rapidly deteriorating mental states. Jared's transformation accelerates hourly. We've restrained him as a precaution, though he hasn't shown any aggression, just an unsettling serenity as his body undergoes impossible changes. His skin has developed a subtle luminescence, most visible in darkness. The veins beneath his skin trace patterns identical to those we observed in the structures in the valley. Webb has stopped attempting treatment, instead documenting the progression with clinical detachment that barely masks his horror. His cellular structure is reorganizing, he explained after examining blood samples under our portable microscope. I can't even identify some of these formations. They're not human. Can it be reversed? I asked, already knowing the answer. Webb just shook his head. This isn't a disease, Elias. It's evolution. Directed, accelerated evolution. Maya has grown increasingly withdrawn, alternating between periods of intense focus on her notebooks and trance-like states where she stares at nothing, lips moving in silent conversation. Vega watches her constantly, one hand never far from her weapon. The captain's military bearing is cracking under the strain. I've noticed a tremor in her left hand, though she tries to hide it. At 0400, the emergency broadcast system activated again. This time, the message was crystal clear, delivered in a calm, professional voice that could have been announcing weather conditions. Attention North Ridge personnel. Extraction protocol initiated. Helicopter transport will arrive at East Landing Pad at 0700 hours. All remaining personnel should prepare for immediate evacuation. Repeat. Extraction team arriving at dawn. The message played 3 times before falling silent. Is it real? Webb asked, voicing our collective doubt. Vega's expression remained guarded. The timing is suspicious. Dawn is when the others left, or when they were taken, I countered, or transformed, Maya added quietly. We all turned to her. She hadn't spoken in hours. The substance, the structures, they're not destroying. They're rebuilding. For what purpose? I demanded. She met my gaze, her eyes clearer than they'd been in days. Communication, transport, evolution, take your pick. But not destruction. Tell that to Martinez, Vega said coldly. Or Jared. Martinez embraced it, Maya replied. And Jared is ahead of us, not behind. He understands now. As if summoned by her words, Jared spoke from his restraints, his voice overlaid with harmonics that made my teeth ache. The extraction is real, but not for us as we are. Only for what we will become. Webb checked his vitals with shaking hands. That's impossible. The dosage I've given him should. The old rules don't apply anymore, Jared continued, eyes still closed. The barriers between states of being are temporary, like birth, like death. He's delirious, Webb insisted, though his scientific certainty had eroded to almost nothing. Vega made a decision. We're not going to that landing pad. We stay sealed here until genuine extraction arrives. And if this is genuine? I asked. Then they can break down the door, she replied grimly. The argument that followed fractured our already fragile unity. Webb insisted we couldn't abandon a potential rescue. Maya became increasingly agitated, pacing the lab and muttering about missing our window. Vega remained adamant that the broadcast was another lure, like the impossible warmth that had drawn Roberts and the others out. I found myself in the impossible position of mediator, trying to hold together minds fraying under cosmic pressure. Part of me recognized the broadcast's suspicious timing, but another part, the part desperate for any escape, wanted to believe. In the midst of our conflict, Maya suddenly stopped pacing. She turned toward the sealed lab door, head tilted as if listening. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. We fell silent. At first, I heard nothing beyond the omnipresent humming. Then I caught it. A tapping pattern against the metal door. Deliberate, rhythmic, not random banging but a communication attempt. "Someone's out there," Webb breathed. Vega drew her weapon, motioning us back from the door. Or something. The tapping continued, resolving into what I recognized as Morse code. My grandfather had taught me as a child, a useless skill until this moment.
RESCUE.
HERE. I translated aloud. OME. OUT. Webb moved toward the door, but Vega blocked his path. It could be anything mimicking human communication, or it could be actual rescue, he countered, desperation bleeding into his voice. We can't just ignore it. The dispute escalated until Maya unexpectedly intervened. "I can prove whether it's real," she said. "Let me look through the viewport." The lab door had a small reinforced viewport, risk, but less than opening the door entirely. After a tense standoff, Vega reluctantly agreed, but insisted on being the one to look first. She approached carefully, weapon raised, and peered through the small window. Her sharp intake of breath told us something waited on the other side. "It's Director Palmer," she said, voice tight with disbelief. "That's impossible," I said, moving to see for myself. Through the viewport, I saw Palmer standing in the corridor, impossibly alive after days of exposure. He looked normal, healthy even. His research uniform was clean, his expression calm and rational. No sign of the transformations affecting Jared or the strange behavior of Roberts and Klein. "Dr. Foster," he called, voice muffled through the door but distinctly human. "We've established a secure perimeter. Military intervention arrived an hour ago. We need to evacuate before the phenomenon reaches critical mass." "Where have you been?" I demanded through the door. "What happened to you out there?" "There's no time to explain," he replied urgently. "The situation has escalated beyond our initial understanding. The helicopter can't wait. Dawn is approaching." "This is wrong," Vega muttered beside me. "Palmer's team disappeared first. If anyone would show transformation, it would be him." Maya pushed forward. "Let me see him." When she looked through the viewport, her reaction was unexpected. Not relief or fear, but disappointment. "It's not what I expected," she murmured. "What do you mean?" Webb asked. Before she could answer, the facility's systems suddenly surged, lights brightening to blinding intensity before dimming to emergency levels. The monitors showing security feeds from other sections flickered, then stabilized to reveal a disturbing truth. The iridescent substance had surrounded our position, flowing through corridors on all sides of the auxiliary lab. We were effectively island in a sea of alien transformation. Palmer's voice became more insistent. "The integrity field won't hold much longer. You need to come now. Follow the secured path to the east landing pad." "There is no secured path," Vega said flatly, gesturing to the monitors. "The substance has surrounded us." Through the viewport, Palmer's expression remained placid, untroubled by this information. "We've established a corridor using specialized containment technology. You won't see it on the internal sensors." The perfect reasonableness of his tone, the convenient explanation for every obstacle. It felt wrong, scripted. I shared a look with Vega, seeing my own suspicion mirrored in her eyes. A new emergency broadcast cut through the tension, this one different from all previous messages. The voice was female, distorted but recognizable as military command structure. North Ridge Containment Zone compromised. No authorized extraction teams deployed. Repeat. Any personnel claiming to be rescue are unauthorized and should be considered hostile. Stand by for Emergency Protocol Omega. In the corridor, Palmer's expression didn't change, didn't even register having heard the broadcast. He simply continued his appeal. Dr. Foster, Captain Vega, you must come now. Dawn approaches. The disconnect between the two messages forced us to a breaking point. Webb cracked first, his scientific rationality collapsing under the strain of contradictory information and days of horror. I'm going, he declared, moving toward the door controls. Even if there's only a chance. Vega moved to stop him, but Maya intervened, placing herself between them. Everyone needs to make their own choice, she said with strange authority. That's the point of all this. Choice. Transformation or stagnation. In the standoff that followed, Palmer continued his rhythmic tapping on the door, no longer pretending it was Morse code but something else. A pattern matching the lights in the valley, matching Jared's heartbeat, matching the pulse of the substance flowing around our final sanctuary. Jared spoke from his bed, voice resonating with the same rhythm. Dawn comes. The vessel awaits. Those who choose ascension will transcend. Those who refuse will witness. The choice before us is impossible. Trust the familiar face offering conventional rescue, or trust our instincts that something fundamental has changed in the world outside our door. Dawn is minutes away. Palmer, or whatever wears his form, continues his patient vigil outside. Webb has his hand on the door control. Maya watches with anticipation. Vega has her weapon trained on the door, prepared for whatever might enter. And I am writing what may be my final log entry, hoping that someone, somewhere might understand what happened on this mountain when the lights came to North Ridge. The humming grows louder. The choice must be made. Dawn breaks in 3 minutes. Research Station Log. North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date: December 18th, 2023, 7:38. Recording Scientist: Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. Webb is gone. The rising sun illuminated his choice. I should record what happened in these past hours, though I'm not certain anyone will ever read this. My hands won't stop shaking, but documenting may be the only science left to me now. Dawn arrived with Webb's fingers hovering over the door release. Maya stood motionless nearby, her expression serene as if witnessing something beautiful rather than terrifying. Captain Vega maintained her position, weapon trained on the entrance, jaw clenched in determination. Don't, I pleaded one final time. Webb, think about what you're doing. He turned to me, eyes hollow with exhaustion and fear. I'm a scientist, Elias. I observe. I gather data. I verify. Standing here, paralyzed by fear, it's against everything I believe in. And if it's not Palmer out there? I asked. A bitter smile crossed his face. Then at least I'll know the truth before the end. He pressed the release. The door hissed open. Palmer remained exactly as we'd seen him through the viewport. Pristine uniform, calm demeanor. No rush of alien substance flooded our sanctuary. No monstrous transformation revealed itself. Dr. Webb, Palmer nodded. A wise decision. Please, we must hurry. Webb hesitated at the threshold, the enormity of his choice finally manifesting as doubt. He glanced back at us one last time, his gaze lingering on Maya. You knew, he said to her. Somehow, you knew what was happening before anyone. Maya said nothing, but something flickered across her face. Regret, perhaps, or anticipation. Webb stepped through the doorway. Palmer placed a hand on his shoulder in a gesture of reassurance. Together they moved down the corridor, visible through the still open door. Anyone else? Palmer called back to us. This is the final extraction. There won't be another. Vega moved to secure the door, but before she could reach it, Jared spoke from his restraints, voice unervingly clear. The horizon calls with 1,000 voices. Listen, as if summoned by his words, every communication device in our lab activated simultaneously. Vega's military radio, the facility broadcast system, my personal tablet, even the defunct landline telephone in the corner. A cascade of sound emerged, overlapping emergency broadcasts, each one different. North Ridge personnel must evacuate immediately. Biohazard containment failure imminent. This is a level 5 security alert. Unknown hostiles have compromised military personnel. Trust no one claiming to be authority. The phenomenon represents first contact. Personnel are advised to maintain peaceful interactions with entities. Total atmospheric failure in T-minus 20 minutes. Emergency oxygen protocols. The cacophony lasted exactly 12 seconds before every device fell silent simultaneously. In the corridor, Palmer continued walking with Webb, showing no reaction to the broadcast storm, as if he hadn't heard it at all. "Close the damn door," Vega shouted, lunging for the control panel. Her fingers had just touched the button when we heard it. Webb scream, not of pain or terror, but something worse. Wonder mixed with horror. The sound of a man witnessing something his mind couldn't comprehend. Vega slammed the door closed, cutting off the scream mid-pitch. The reinforced metal sealed with a pneumatic hiss that felt terribly final. "He made his choice," Vega said, voice tight. She wouldn't look at any of us. For several minutes, we existed in a stunned silence, the implications of what had just occurred too vast to process immediately. Jared had fallen quiet again, his luminescent skin pulsing with a rhythm that matched the distant humming. It was Maya who broke the silence. "The broadcasts are a test," she said softly. "They want to see how we respond to contradictory information." "They?" I asked. "Who the hell are they?" Maya turned to look at the security monitors. "I need to check something on the communication equipment." "No one's going anywhere," Vega stated flatly, positioning herself between Maya and the door. "Not after what just happened." "Then let Jared help," Maya suggested, glancing toward our restrained colleague. "He understands their signals now." "He's sedated and delirious," I objected. Maya smiled faintly. "Is he?" We all looked at Jared, who lay perfectly still, eyes open and alert despite the massive dosage Webb had administered. The restraints around his wrists had begun to discolor where they touched his skin. Not chafing or irritation, but a subtle adoption of the same iridescent quality we'd observed in the substance consuming the facility. "You knew this would happen," Vega accused Maya suddenly. "You've been acting strange since the lights first appeared. What aren't you telling us?" Maya's face remained impassive. "I know as little as you do about what's happening, but I recognize patterns. Like the fact that each emergency broadcast comes exactly when someone needs to make a crucial decision. The observation struck me with its accuracy. Every major alert had arrived at a moment of choice. When the first group decided to investigate the valley, when Roberts insisted on checking the perimeter, when Webb chose to follow Palmer. "They're manipulating us," Vega concluded. "Or guiding us," Maya countered. "To what end?" I demanded. Instead of answering, Maya approached my tablet, the one that had broadcast along with the other devices. "May I?" Reluctantly, I nodded. She picked it up and began examining the communication logs, her fingers moving with practiced precision through screens and settings I barely understood. "The emergency broadcasts aren't coming from outside the facility," she announced after several minutes. "They're being generated internally, or at least they're being processed through our own systems." "That's impossible," Vega objected. "Emergency broadcasts require authentication codes that only military command would have. Unless someone inside had those codes," I suggested, looking pointedly at Vega. Her expression hardened. "Are you accusing me of something, Foster?" Before I could respond, Maya interrupted. "Look at this." She turned the tablet toward us, showing a spectrogram analysis of the most recent broadcast. There's a hidden frequency embedded in the transmission. The visual representation showed normal sound waves with a subtle pattern underneath. Geometrically perfect shapes that shifted and morphed in ways that felt deliberate, almost linguistic. A secondary message, Vega murmured, professional interest momentarily overriding suspicion. Could be data encryption, I suggested. Maya shook her head. It's not encryption. It's translation. Jared spoke suddenly. The message maps neural pathways. Speech becomes thought, becomes understanding. We all stared at him. His restraints had begun to dissolve where they touched his skin, the material becoming transparent like melting ice. Maya returned to the tablet, working with renewed urgency. I think I can isolate and amplify the secondary signal. If we strip away the verbal content of the broadcasts, the tablet emitted a sound unlike anything I'd heard before. A harmonic cascade that seemed to resonate directly within my skull rather than passing through my ears. Patterns emerged within the noise, impressions rather than words. Vast distances, patient waiting, gentle invitation. Vega reacted violently, knocking the tablet from Maya's hands. Turn it off. The tablet clattered to the floor, screen cracking but still emitting the strange harmonics. Vega raised her boot to crush it, but Maya caught her arm with surprising strength. Don't you understand? Maya's voice carried an intensity I'd never heard from her before. This is why they came. Communication, connection. What's happening isn't an invasion. It's an introduction. People are dead, Vega snarled. Or worse, are they? Maya challenged. Have you seen a body? Have you confirmed a single death? Or have people simply changed, transformed, become something else? The uncomfortable truth settled over us. For all the horror we'd witnessed, we hadn't seen anyone actually die. Those who left never returned, but we had no evidence of their destruction. Only Webb's final scream of impossible revelation. From his bed, Jared laughed softly. The captain knows. She's always known. Vega's composure cracked. She drew her weapon and aimed it directly at Maya. Step away from him. Now. Maya didn't move. Tell them, Captain. Tell them why you're really here. Something in Vega's expression shifted, the rigid military discipline giving way to something desperate. This facility was never about atmospheric research, she admitted. Guns still trained on Maya. North Ridge was established to monitor the anomaly in the valley. We detected the first signals 3 years ago, quantum fluctuations that defied explanation. You knew they were coming? I realized, the betrayal hitting me like physical pain. All of us, the entire research team, we were just cover for your operation. Vega's jaw tightened. We didn't know what was coming, only that something was. The military needed scientific minds present when contact occurred, but we couldn't risk panic if the information went public. So you lied to us, I said bitterly. Used us as expendable observers. We protected humanity, she countered, or tried to, but the containment protocols failed when the lights appeared. They were more adaptable than anticipated. From the communications equipment came a sudden burst of static, resolving into a clear voice. Captain Vega, Operation Firewall has been authorized. Activation code Sigma 9 Delta 3. Confirm receipt. Vega's expression hardened into military resolve. She kept her weapon trained on Maya while reaching slowly for her radio with her free hand. What is Operation Firewall? I demanded. Insurance, she replied coldly, then spoke into the radio. Vega confirming Sigma 9 Delta 3, awaiting final authorization. The radio crackled. Authorization confirmed. Nuclear sterilization in T-90 minutes. Extraction denied. Your sacrifice will be remembered, Captain. The room went silent except for the persistent humming from beyond our walls. Maya closed her eyes briefly, as if absorbing a terrible truth she'd long suspected. They're going to destroy the entire mountain, she said quietly, along with whatever is trying to communicate with us. Vega didn't deny it. Some risks can't be contained. Some knowledge isn't meant for humanity. That's not your decision to make, I argued, anger rising within me. We're scientists. Our purpose is to understand, not destroy. Your purpose was to observe and report, Vega replied sharply. My purpose was to assess the threat and respond accordingly. These entities, whatever they are rewriting human biology, changing people into something else. That represents an existential threat to our species. Jared's quiet voice drew our attention. The restraints no longer hold me. I stay by choice. Indeed, the straps across his body had dissolved completely, leaving him free to rise. Yet he remained still, watching us with eyes that reflected light in impossible ways. Why? I asked him. What do they want from us? Want? Jared echoed, as if the concept amused him. You still think in such limited terms. They don't want. They offer. What do they offer? Maya pressed.
Jared's eyes met hers.
Evolution without extinction. Transformation without loss. The next step. Vega repositioned herself to keep both Maya and Jared in her sightline. This ends now. No one else leaves this room until the operation is complete. 90 minutes, I said hollowly. And then none of this will matter. From somewhere deep within the facility came a terrible groaning sound. Metal under impossible stress, the building itself beginning to change. On the security monitors, the iridescent substance pulsed in patterns matching Jared's breathing. The truth lay hidden in the static between emergency broadcasts. Messages not meant for human ears reshaping human comprehension. Dawn had brought no rescue, only revelation. And nuclear fire would soon erase all evidence of what happened at North Ridge, leaving nothing but questions and corrupted emergency broadcasts echoing through empty channels. Unless we found another way, unless we understood what waited behind the door, what had shown itself to Webb, what Palmer had become. 90 minutes. The clock was ticking. Research Station Log. North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date: December 18th, 2023, 9:12. Recording scientist, Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. 83 minutes until detonation. The air feels charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. I've barricaded myself in the small storage alcove attached to our lab, the only space offering even an illusion of privacy. Captain Vega remains vigilant by the sealed door, checking her watch compulsively every few minutes. The military precision of her movements has given way to something more primal, the restlessness of a trapped animal. Jared hasn't moved from his bed despite being free of restraints. The luminescence beneath his skin pulses in slow, hypnotic rhythms that match the iridescent patterns flowing across the security monitors. He speaks occasionally, but his words have become increasingly abstract, filled with references to dimensional thresholds and consciousness lattices. But it's Maya who compels me to make this record. What happened 20 minutes ago changes everything we thought we knew about North Ridge and about her. It began when the lights flickered, a momentary power surge that reset the security feeds. When they reactivated, the monitors showed something new. The iridescent substance had formed a perfect circle in the corridor outside our lab, leaving a clear path to the east wing where Palmer had led Webb. It's opening a path for us, Maya observed, her voice unervingly calm. It's trying to lure us out, Vega countered, grip tightening on her weapon. Like it did with Webb. I studied the monitors, noting the unnatural precision of the corridor. Why now? What changed? The countdown began, Maya replied simply. They know time is limited. Vega rounded on her. You keep saying, they, like you know what these things are. You've been hiding something since this started. No more secrets. Tell us what you know. Maya stood motionless for several seconds, as if coming to a difficult decision. Then she reached into her inner jacket pocket and withdrew a small object I hadn't seen before. A smooth, polished stone that caught the light strangely, seeming to absorb rather than reflect it. I wasn't assigned to North Ridge by chance, she admitted, rolling the stone between her fingers. I requested this posting specifically. Why? I asked, already dreading the answer. Because 3 years ago, I found this embedded in a meteorite sample from this region. She held up the stone. It's not from Earth. Vega moved with military swiftness, disarming Maya of the object and backing away, holding it at arm's length as if it might bite. You brought an alien artifact into a secure facility without disclosure? That's treason. It was inert when I found it, Maya explained, making no move to reclaim the stone. Just a curiosity, a crystalline structure unlike anything in our geological record. But 2 months ago, it changed, started emitting pulses of energy that matched exactly the anomalous readings your team was detecting in the valley. You knew what was coming? I accused, understanding flooding over me. You came here deliberately to witness first contact. I came to understand, Maya corrected. The stone was communicating something, mathematical sequences too complex for our computers to decode. I needed the advanced equipment here to analyze the patterns. And you didn't think to share this information when people started disappearing? Vega's voice was dangerously quiet. Would you have listened? Maya challenged. Or would you have locked me away and destroyed the only link we had to understanding what's happening before Vega could respond? The stone in her hand pulsed with sudden intensity, a burst of iridescence identical to the substance consuming the facility. Vega cried out, dropping it to the floor where it continued to pulse, its rhythm synchronizing with Jared's breathing and the patterns on the monitors. It's activating, Maya whispered, her scientific detachment momentarily giving way to wonder. It recognizes what's happening here. Jared spoke from his bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling. The key and the door recognize each other. A new emergency alert blared through the system, different from any we'd heard before. This one a simple mechanical voice, devoid of emotion. Attention North Ridge personnel. Phase 1 integration assessment complete. 82% of subjects demonstrate successful adaptation. Phase 2 authorized. Repeat. Phase 2 authorized. Vega stared at the ceiling speaker, face pale. That's not one of ours. No, Maya agreed. It's not. The stone on the floor pulsed in response to the message, projecting a faint holographic display. Geometric shapes that rotated and intersected in complex patterns. It's a model of consciousness, Maya explained, crouching beside it. Human neural architecture beside something else. The integration they're talking about, it's a merging of minds, of beings. They're not replacing us, I realized aloud. They're evolving us. Vega shook her head vehemently. This is exactly why Operation Firewall exists. Alien intelligence attempting to rewrite human biology. It's an extinction-level threat. Or the next step in our development, Maya countered. Jared laughed softly from his bed. Both. Neither. The categories no longer apply. I found myself drawn to the holographic display, mesmerized by its complexity. How long have you known this was their purpose? Maya hesitated. I suspected after the first disappearances. The pattern of transformation was too deliberate, too gentle. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so instantly. Instead, they're changing us one by one, allowing us to acclimate. Gentle, Vega spat. You call what happened to Jared gentle? I feel no pain, Jared interjected. Only expansion. Layers of consciousness opening like petals. The facility's structure groaned around us, metal and concrete reshaping themselves according to some alien architecture. The circle of clear passage outside our door pulsed insistently on the monitors. What happens in Phase 2? I asked Maya. Her eyes met mine, and I saw fear there for the first time. Not of the transformation, but of what she was about to reveal. The stone showed me fragments, images. Phase 1 is individual transformation, preparing human bodies and minds to serve as vessels. Phase 2 is collective, a network connecting all transformed individuals into a shared consciousness. A hive mind, Vega translated grimly. More complex than that, Maya corrected. Individuality isn't erased, just expanded, connected. The implications were staggering. Not just a physical transformation, but a complete reimagining of human consciousness. the end of isolation, of the boundaries between minds that define our existence. What about those who don't transform? I asked. Those who resist? Maya glanced at the stone. The sequences suggest binary outcomes. Integration or obsolescence. Extinction, Vega translated flatly. Anyone who doesn't join them dies or is left behind, Maya amended. As we left behind earlier evolutionary forms, the debate was interrupted by a harsh buzzing from Vega's radio. A new transmission cutting through on the military emergency channel. All units Operation Firewall accelerated. Detonation now T-minus 70 minutes. Preliminary thermobaric strike authorized to soften target. Incoming ordnance ETA 5 minutes. Take shelter immediately. Vega's training reasserted itself. They're bombing us ahead of the nuclear strike. We need to move to the subsurface levels now. As if in response, the security monitors showed the clear path outside our door extending further, leading not to the exit but downward, toward the facility's lowest levels. It's guiding us, Maya observed. Or hurting us, I countered. Jared sat up for the first time, his movements fluid despite days of restraint. His skin had taken on a translucent quality, veins pulsing with iridescent light. Time compresses, decision points approach. The network awaits new nodes. Maya retrieved her alien stone from the floor, the holographic display collapsing as she lifted it. We need to follow the path, not just for shelter from the bombing. There's something they want us to see. We're staying right here, Vega insisted, raising her weapon. No one follows their directions. And die when the bombs hit? Maya challenged. The subsurface levels are our only chance of survival. The argument was cut short by a violent tremor that shook the entire facility. Not the alien transformation, but something far more human. The first bombing run beginning. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling as the lights flickered ominously. In that moment of chaos, Maya made her choice. She lunged for the door controls, slapping the emergency release before Vega could stop her. The reinforced door slid open, revealing the clear corridor surrounded by pulsing iridescence. Maya, don't! I shouted, but she was already stepping through the doorway. She turned back, face illuminated by the alien light. I've been studying this communication for months, Elias. What they're offering isn't death, it's transcendence. Come with me. See what Webb saw. Vega raised her weapon. Stop or I'll shoot. Maya smiled sadly. No, you won't, because deep down you're curious too. Everyone assigned to this facility was chosen for that quality. The willingness to seek knowledge regardless of risk. That's why they came here first. We were always meant to be the bridge. Another bombing run shook the facility, this one closer. Ceiling panels crashed down around us, emergency sirens blaring through the fractured speakers. The structural integrity of our sanctuary was rapidly failing. 70 minutes until nuclear strike, Maya reminded us. But only moments until this section collapses. Choose now. Jared rose from his bed and moved toward the door with inhuman grace. As he passed me, he placed a luminescent hand on my shoulder. A gesture so familiar yet now so alien. The horizon expands for those who seek it. Elias. They stepped into the corridor together, the iridescent substance parting around them like water, leaving the clear path intact. They moved with purpose toward whatever waited below. Vega and I stood in the disintegrating lab, the choice before us catastrophically simple. Follow them into unknown transformation or await certain death from very human weapons. Another explosion rocked the facility, closer still. A support beam crashed down where Jared's bed had been moments before. The path remained clear, beckoning. Vega's military resolve finally cracked. I was ordered to contain this situation, she whispered, almost to herself. But there's nothing in the protocols about this. We're beyond protocols now, I responded, watching Maya and Jared disappear around a corner, following the alien architecture deeper into the facility, or what the facility was becoming. The next bombing run would not miss. The nuclear strike would leave nothing behind. Only one path remained. I stepped toward the door, into the unknown. Research Station Log, North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date: December 18th, 2023, 10:47. Recording Scientist, Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. I've lost track of how deep we've descended into the facility. The architecture around us has transformed so completely that North Ridge exists now only in memory. What was once the subsurface maintenance level has become a vast chamber of impossible geometries. Corridors that curve in ways that hurt the eyes, ceilings that seem simultaneously close enough to touch and infinitely distant. The bombing runs stopped 30 minutes ago. Either the military believes we've been neutralized, or they're conserving ordnance for the final nuclear strike. According to Vega's watch, we have just under 50 minutes remaining before Operation Firewall concludes its grim work. Not that time feels reliable anymore. Down here, minutes stretch and compress unpredictably. My own watch stopped working the moment we entered this chamber. The digital display frozen at 10:03, the exact time Maya first revealed her alien stone. Vega hasn't spoken since we left the lab. She follows a few paces behind me, weapon still drawn but hanging loosely at her side. Her military bearing has eroded completely, leaving behind a haunted vigilance. She stares at everything and nothing, occasionally murmuring coordinates and protocols under her breath, as if they might anchor her to reality. Maya and Jared move ahead of us, following the pulsing iridescent pathway that continues to open before them. They've changed even in these few hours, not drastically, but undeniably. Maya's movements have taken on a fluid precision, each step perfectly placed. The veins at her temples glow faintly beneath her skin when she turns to check our progress. Jared's transformation has accelerated. His entire body now emanates soft light, and when he speaks, his voice carries harmonics that resonate in my chest rather than my ears. "We're approaching the Nexus," he announced moments ago, the first words any of us had spoken in what felt like hours. The place where boundaries dissolve. "What boundaries?" I asked, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. Maya answered without turning. "Between states of being. Between them and us." "Who are they?" I demanded, frustration finally overwhelming caution. "You keep talking about them like you understand what's happening. What are these things?" Maya and Jared exchanged a glance that conveyed volumes, a silent communication that excluded Vega and me. Finally, Maya slowed her pace until we walked side by side. "They don't have a name we could pronounce," she explained. "They exist primarily as patterns of information rather than physical beings, at least originally." The stone showed me glimpses of their evolution. They began as something like us, individual, biological, but advanced beyond physical form millions of years ago. "If they're not physical, what's consuming the facility?" Vega spoke for the first time, her voice hoarse. "An interface," Jared answered. "A translation layer between their consciousness and our reality. They can't communicate with us directly. Our brains aren't equipped to process their language. So they're building a bridge. By transforming people," I said flatly. Maya nodded. "The human mind has potential they find compatible, but it needs modification to perceive what they want to show us." Before I could respond, the pathway ahead widened suddenly, opening into a vast spherical chamber that defied the facility's original architecture completely. The walls, floor, and ceiling were indistinguishable from one another, all flowing with the same iridescent substance that now resembled liquid light. And we weren't alone. Throughout the chamber, hovering in gentle suspension, were the missing North Ridge personnel. Palmer floated near what might be called the center. His body, oriented vertically though up, had lost all meaning here. Around him, arranged in concentric circles, were Roberts, Klein, Martinez, and others, all suspended, all transformed. Their bodies glowed with internal light that pulsed in perfect synchronization. Their eyes were open but unseeing, focused on something beyond the visible spectrum. And among them, newly arrived, was Webb. Unlike the others, his transformation appeared incomplete. His skin had only begun to develop the characteristic luminescence, and his expression still registered human emotion, wonder mixed with profound terror. "Webb!" I called out. My voice echoed strangely, as if traveling through liquid. His eyes focused on me with difficulty. "Elias," he said, his voice distorted but recognizable. "You need to see. You need to understand." Before I could reach him, the air in the center of the chamber condensed, forming a column of light that rotated slowly, gathering mass and definition. The light resolved into a form that approximated human shape but couldn't be human. It stood nearly 9 feet tall, its proportions subtly wrong, its surface constantly shifting between solidity and transparency. "The emissary," Maya whispered reverently. Vega raised her weapon instinctively, but Jared gently placed a hand on the barrel, lowering it. "That won't help you here," he said softly. The entity, the emissary, regarded us with faceted structures where eyes might be on a human face. When it spoke, no sound emerged, yet words formed directly in my mind. "You have questions." The simplicity of the statement contrasted with the overwhelming complexity of its presence. I struggled to form coherent thoughts under its attention. "What do you want from us?" I managed finally. "Want is a limited concept. We offer." "Offer what?" Vega demanded, her military training providing structure against the mental vertigo. "Evolution without extinction. Continuation beyond your current limitations." Images flooded my consciousness. Stars seen from impossible perspectives. Knowledge flowing like water between minds. Existence freed from singular identity, yet somehow retaining individual awareness. The vastness of it threatened to overwhelm me completely before the connection mercifully dimmed. I gasped, finding myself on my knees without remembering having fallen. Maya stood before me, her hand extended. "It's too much at once," she explained as she helped me up. "They're learning to modulate the information flow. That's why the transformation is gradual. Our minds need time to adapt. And if we don't want to adapt?" Vega challenged, still maintaining distance from the emissary. The entity shifted, its form temporarily destabilizing before reconfiguring. "Choice remains fundamental. Force negates purpose." "Then let us leave," Vega pressed. "If choice matters, let us walk away." "To where?" The chamber around us transformed, the walls becoming transparent to reveal the mountain outside. The facility had been utterly reshaped. No longer a human structure, but something that resembled a vast, crystalline growth erupting from the mountainside. The valley below was filled with iridescent light that reached skyward like tentative fingers. And in the distance, visible through the crystalline walls, military aircraft circled, their patterns suggesting preparation for the final strike. "Your species faces a junction. Continuation requires evolution. Resistance ensures obsolescence." The message carried no threat, only a statement of calculated probability. The entity gestured toward the suspended personnel. "They have joined the network. Their consciousness expands beyond previous limitations. They remain themselves but become more." Webb's suspended form twitched at these words, his partially transformed face contorting with effort. "It's true, Elias," he called out, voice strained. "I can feel them all, Palmer, Roberts, everyone. We're still here, still ourselves, but connected to something vast." "Mind control," Vega muttered, but without conviction. Webb shook his head slowly, the movement dreamlike in the chamber's strange physics. "Not control. Expansion. I understand things now that would have taken lifetimes to learn." The emissary's form rippled. "Time diminishes. Your military prepares final elimination protocol. Decision point approaches." Maya stepped forward, holding up her alien stone. It pulsed in harmony with the chamber's light. "They've been preparing us for this moment for years, sending signals, placing markers like this stone where scientists would find them. They knew we were close to a developmental threshold." "Why not just announce themselves?" I asked. "Why all this manipulation?" "Direct contact historically results in fear, violence, rejection. Gradual integration maximizes acceptance probability. You mean you've tried before? Vega realized aloud. Made contact with humans before. The emissary's form flickered in what might have been acknowledgement. Previous attempts. Incomplete. This attempt, promising. 43 minutes until opportunity concludes. The reminder of our deadline hung in the air. The nuclear strike would vaporize everything, the transformed facility, the emissary, ourselves, any chance of understanding what was being offered. Jared, who had been silent during the exchange, suddenly spoke. The darkness comes, but so does dawn. Those who choose ascension will transcend. Those who refuse will witness. I recognized the words from his earlier prophecy, but now they carried new weight. The emissary seemed to focus on him. Your integration progresses well. Neural architecture compatible. Consciousness expansion approaching stability. I can feel them, Jared said softly, wonder in his voice. Billions of minds across thousands of light years. A network of awareness stretching through the cosmos. Maya's expression showed naked longing. The ultimate scientific understanding. Not just observing the universe, but experiencing it directly. Vega finally holstered her weapon, the futility of it apparent even to her military mind. And what happens to Earth if we refuse? If humanity as a whole rejects this offer, development continues elsewhere. Earth remains on current trajectory, which is what? Oppressed. Technological self-destruction within 3 centuries. Probability 87%. The chamber fell silent as we absorbed this clinical assessment of our species' future. The suspended forms of our colleagues pulsed with increasingly synchronized light, their transformations progressing visibly. 40 minutes, Maya said quietly. We need to decide. The emissary's form expanded slightly, tendrils of light extending toward each of us but stopping short of contact. The invitation remains open. The choice must be individual. Webb's voice called out from his suspended state. Elias, the things I've seen, the knowledge. His words trailed off as his body pulsed with new intensity, the transformation accelerating. His eyes rolled back, and he seemed to merge more deeply with the network of minds. In that moment, an emergency alert blared through the chamber. Not from the emissary, but from Vega's military radio, still functioning despite everything. Operation Firewall final phase initiated. Nuclear package deployed. Impact in 38 minutes. May God have mercy on your souls. The night had grown long indeed. Dawn approached, either the dawn of nuclear fire or something altogether different. The choice hung before us, impossible yet unavoidable. Maya reached toward the nearest tendril of light, her expression resolute. Jared had already begun moving toward the suspended forms, his body becoming less solid with each step. Vega stood frozen, centuries of military doctrine warring with the evidence before her eyes. And I watched the countdown on Vega's radio tick downward, wondering if humanity's first contact with a truly alien intelligence would end in transformation or annihilation. The longest night of my life approached its conclusion. Whatever dawn brought, nothing would ever be the same. Research Station Log, North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date: December 19, 2023, 5:12. Recording Scientist: Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. 35 minutes until impact. The chamber has changed again, responding to our collective anxiety like a living organism. The crystalline walls pulse with accelerated rhythm, and the suspended forms of our colleagues drift closer to the center where the emissary hovers. Vega's radio crackles intermittently with fragments of military chatter, each transmission more urgent than the last. Confirm payload delivery. No response from infiltration team. Maintain exclusion perimeter at all costs. Potential contamination beyond initial estimates. She stands rigid, eyes fixed on the timer counting down on her tactical display. Her fingers hover over her sidearm, not in threat, but in nervous habit, a soldier's security blanket. They'll kill everyone, she says finally, breaking the heavy silence. Not just us, the entire mountain, the surrounding towns. They'll claim it was a geological event, a sudden volcanic eruption. Why? I ask, though I already suspect the answer. Because they're terrified, Maya answers for her. She stands closest to the emissary, her transformed features catching the ambient light. The alien stone pulses in her hand like a second heartbeat. Humanity's power structures are built on control. What the visitors offer is beyond control. The emissary's form ripples in what might be acknowledgement. Fear of transcendence is a common evolutionary hurdle. Not everyone fears change, Jared interjects. His transformation is nearly complete now. His physical form barely maintains human shape, limbed in light that extends outward like tendrils seeking connection. Some of us have been waiting our whole lives. He turns to me, and I struggle to recognize my friend in those luminous eyes. You've always wanted answers, Elias. Remember our late-night debates? The universe's secrets, consciousness, reality itself. It's all here for the taking. I step back instinctively. At what cost, Jared? Our humanity. Humanity is not static. It evolves or perishes. The emissary's communication bypasses my ears, resonating directly within my mind. Each thought carries echoes of countless others, whispers of civilizations that made similar choices throughout cosmic history. Maya approaches me, her movements fluid and precise. The military will be here soon with or without their nuclear option. We can't go back to what we were, Elias. The facility is gone. Our colleagues are transformed. The world we knew ended the moment the visitors arrived. You knew? I accuse her suddenly as puzzle pieces click into place. The classified research, your immediate understanding of the stone. You've been in contact with them before. She doesn't deny it. 5 years ago, I found a similar artifact during an expedition in the Arctic. It showed me possibilities. I've been preparing ever since. You brought them here, Vega states flatly, her voice tight with controlled fury. You compromised this facility. I opened a door that was already waiting to be discovered. Maya counters. Would you rather humanity stumble blindly toward extinction? The argument is interrupted by a sudden change in the chamber. The central space where the emissary hovers begins to expand, forming a spiraling passage that stretches upward beyond vision. A new junction forms. The network expands. Webb's suspended form suddenly animates, his eyes focusing with unexpected clarity. It's a passage, he calls out, a way to join the greater community. They're scattered across thousands of worlds, Elias. Minds like ours but evolved beyond physical limitation. And what about Earth? I demand. Do we just abandon everyone? Seeds remain. Growth continues. Earth is not forgotten. The emissary extends a tendril of light toward a section of the crystalline wall, which transforms into a view screen of sorts. It shows similar chambers forming across the planet, small pockets of transformation in remote locations, far from military intervention. They're establishing nodes globally, Maya explains. Not an invasion, but invitation points. Places where those who choose transformation can go. Vega's radio suddenly bursts to life with a clear transmission. Operation Firewall command to all units. Satellite imagery shows multiple emergence sites worldwide. Nuclear option aborted. Repeat, nuclear option aborted. Stand by for new containment protocols. The timer on her display freezes at 26 minutes. Relief washes over her face, quickly replaced by uncertainty. What now? She asks no one in particular. The answer comes as the chamber floor begins to split open, revealing the facility beneath, transformed but recognizable. The original shelter where we first gathered when the emergency began. The choice remains individual. Those who wish to join may ascend. Those who require more time may return. Return to what? Ask. The world is changing around us. Gradual integration proceeds. Humanity determines its own pace. Jared moves toward the spiraling passage, his form now barely human. I've seen enough, Elias. This is what I was meant for. Maya steps forward as well, but hesitates, looking back at me. Come with us, please. I feel the pull of curiosity, the scientist in me yearning to understand, to experience the knowledge they offer. But something holds me back. Someone needs to explain to those below. I say finally, someone human needs to help bridge the gap. Vega surprises me by nodding in agreement. Command structures will collapse when word gets out. People will panic unless they understand this isn't hostile. The emissary's form pulses brighter. Intermediaries serve essential functions. Your choice is acknowledged. A new emergency alert sounds, not from Vega's radio, but from the facility's restored communication system. A voice I recognize as Dr. Harmond, the facility director who had been among the first to disappear. Attention all North Ridge personnel. This is not a drill. Dawn approaches. Those who wish to understand the visitors will be welcomed at designated integration points. Those who choose to remain human will be respected. The choice must be individual. Repeat. The choice must be individual. The message loops once, then falls silent. Maya steps close to me, taking my hand. Her skin feels warm but different, vibrating with subtle energy that makes my fingertips tingle. Last chance, Elias. What we could learn together. I gently withdraw my hand. I'm not saying never. I'm saying not yet. Someone needs to help humanity adjust to this new reality. She accepts this with a sad smile, then removes her identification badge and presses it into my palm. Level 5 access to all my research files, she explains. Everything I've learned about them over the years. It might help you explain. Jared has already begun ascending the spiral passage, his form dissolving into pure light as he joins the network. Webb and the others have similarly begun their ascension, moving like a stream of conscious light upward through the opening. Maya turns to follow them, but pauses to look back one final time. Dawn comes either way, Elias, whether we witness it or not. Vega's radio crackles again. All units hold positions. First contact protocols now in effect. Diplomatic Corps inbound. Repeat. Hold positions and await Diplomatic Corps. The military machine adjusts, however reluctantly, to the new reality. Maya steps into the spiraling light and begins her ascension, her human form gradually shedding its limitations as she rises. The transformation is beautiful and terrifying to witness, like watching someone walk willingly into fire only to emerge unburned. The emissary's form begins to fade, but its final message lingers in my mind. Dawn approaches. Shelter opens. The junction remains accessible. Your species stands at the threshold. Some will cross now, others later. Development continues. As Maya and the others vanish completely into the ascending spiral, the chamber begins to reconfigure itself. The crystalline walls solidify into something more recognizable, still alien in design but structured to accommodate human needs. Doorways form, leading back to sections of the original facility. Vega checks her equipment one last time, then looks at me with newfound respect. You're staying human too? For now, I reply. How do we explain what we've seen? Who will believe us? She gestures toward the transformed facility around us. Evidence is pretty compelling, and if they're establishing these junction points globally, we're hardly the only witnesses. A final emergency alert sounds through the restored facility speakers, this one in Harmon's voice, but with subtle harmonics that weren't present before. Attention all personnel and approaching authorities. Dawn has arrived. The shelter opens. Those who left have not returned because they have transformed. They remain in contact. The choice to follow remains open. The dawn of a new understanding has begun. The alert ends, and in its place comes the sound of helicopter rotors in the distance. The diplomatic corps, military reinforcements, perhaps scientists and government officials, all racing to make sense of what has happened here. Vega and I exchange a look of shared understanding. Whatever comes next, we stand at the fulcrum point between humanity's past and its possible futures. Ready? She asks, gesturing toward the doorway that will lead us back to the surface. back to our unchanged forms and the changed world. I pick up my recorder and make one final entry. This is Dr. Elias Foster. The longest night is ending. Dawn has arrived. Those who left the shelter at dawn have not returned. Not because they are gone, but because they have become something else entirely. The rest of us face a choice. Follow them into transformation or remain to guide humanity through what comes next. I have made my choice for now. Dawn breaks over a world forever altered. I switch off the recorder and nod to Vega. Ready. Together, we walk toward the door and the uncertain dawn beyond, carrying the impossible truth of what we've witnessed. Behind us, the spiral passage remains, a doorway to something greater, a promise or a threat depending on one's perspective. The choice remains individual. The dawn waits for no one. Research Station Log, North Ridge Atmospheric Research Facility. Date: January 7th, 2024, 1938. Recording scientist, Dr. Elias Foster, Meteorological Division. 3 weeks since Dawn Decision Day, as the media has taken to calling it. 3 weeks of debriefings, testimonies, and examinations. 3 weeks of watching the world struggle to comprehend what can barely be comprehended. I've been permitted to return to North Ridge to collect personal belongings, though North Ridge exists now only as a technical designation. The facility bears little resemblance to the research station I called home for 5 years. The transformation remains stable, crystalline corridors that somehow accommodate human visitors while maintaining their alien geometries. The military calls it a diplomatic zone now. Scientists call it a junction point. Religious groups can't decide if it's Heaven's Gate or Hell's Mouth. Captain Vega accompanies me, though her role has evolved. She's no longer a simple military liaison, but has been promoted to serve on the newly formed Visitor Interface Task Force. The silver eagles on her uniform seem incongruous against the iridescent light that suffuses everything here. 20 minutes, Dr. Foster. She reminds me as we pass through security checkpoints staffed by soldiers whose unease is palpable despite their training. The diplomatic corps needs the chamber by 2,000 hours. I nod, though we both know my presence here isn't really about collecting keepsakes. I've been drawn back by the dreams, vivid visions of Maya and Jared calling to me from across some vast divide. Each night, they show me wonders I can barely comprehend upon waking. Each morning, I find equations and diagrams scrawled in my own handwriting beside my bed. The chamber looks different now. The military has installed monitoring equipment around its perimeter, and a conference table occupies the space where the emissary first manifested. But the spiral passage remains at the center, now contained behind a transparent barrier bearing warning signs in multiple languages. Has anyone else? I begin, unable to finish the question. Gone through. Vega completes it for me. 6 scientists from the diplomatic corps, 2 military observers. They maintain communication for approximately 72 hours after transition. Then the signals become. She hesitates, searching for the right word. Incompatible with our technology. I approach the barrier, placing my palm against its surface. It feels warm, almost alive, vibrating at a frequency just below audible range. And the broadcasts? Are they continuing? Vega nods grimly. Globally, every emergency broadcast system on the planet receives them simultaneously at dawn each day. I've heard them, of course. Everyone has. The messages vary slightly but maintain the same core theme. An invitation to evolution, a promise of transcendence, a reassurance that the choice remains individual. What began as panic has settled into uneasy acceptance as governments worldwide acknowledge the broadcast's benign nature. So far, something's changed. I observe, noting subtle alterations in the chamber's pulsing light patterns. The rhythm is different from when we left. The eggheads say it's responding to increased human presence, Vega explains, adapting to facilitate communication. Before I can respond, my phone buzzes with an emergency alert, the distinctive tone now familiar to everyone on Earth. Dawn Communication Network Advisory. Integration acceleration observed at all junction points. Those who seek understanding may approach. Intermediaries prepare for contact. The message is different from the usual dawn broadcast. More urgent, more specific, and aimed directly at me. Intermediaries, I murmur, remembering the emissary's words. That's what it called those of us who stayed behind. The chamber's lights pulse in sync with my heartbeat, and the barrier before me shimmers momentarily. A breach, a deliberate opening. From the spiral passage, a figure emerges, not fully materialized but visible enough to recognize. Maya, her form flickers between states. Sometimes the Maya I knew, sometimes a being of pure light, sometimes something in between. When she speaks, her voice resonates from everywhere and nowhere. Elias, the network expands. The great conversation continues. Your presence is requested. Vega draws her sidearm instinctively, though we both know its uselessness against whatever Maya has become. Dr. Kirkland, you are in a restricted zone. Vega announces, protocol overriding wonder. Please remain where you are. Maya's laugh is musical, harmonics impossible for human vocal cords to produce. Captain Vega, always the soldier. But haven't you felt it too? The pull of something greater. Vega's hand trembles slightly, the only outward sign of her inner conflict. I've seen how she wakes from her own dreams, how she studies the transformation with equal parts fear and fascination. Why now? I ask Maya. Why this urgency? Her form stabilizes momentarily, becoming more recognizably human, perhaps for our comfort. The network has reached consensus. Earth stands at a critical juncture. Your species teeters between extinction and ascension. The intermediaries must be prepared. Prepared for what? To guide, to explain, to prevent panic when the next phase begins. The chamber's light intensifies, and another figure manifests beside Maya, Jared, though his transformation appears even more complete. Where Maya retains some human characteristics, Jared exists primarily as a complex pattern of light that only occasionally resembles the man I knew. Hello, Elias. His voice ripples through the air. I've missed our conversations. Something about his tone sends chills through me. Familiar yet fundamentally altered. The next phase, I repeat. What does that mean? Maya and Jared exchange a look that transcends physical communication. Show him, Jared suggests. Maya extends a luminous tendril toward me, stopping just short of physical contact. May I? She asks. Against all rational thought, against Vega's startled warning, I nod. The touch is electric, not painful but overwhelming. My consciousness expands outward in all directions simultaneously. I see Earth from orbit but not through ordinary vision. I perceive it as a network of light points, junction sites like North Ridge pulsing in synchronization across the globe. Billions of human minds flicker like stars, some reaching toward the network, others pulling away in fear. And surrounding Earth, invisible to conventional observation, a vast lattice of energy extends throughout the solar system, the larger network that Maya and Jared have joined. I gasp as the vision recedes, finding myself on my knees. Vega kneels beside me, concern having overridden her military bearing. Jesus, Foster, are you okay? Your eyes were different. I whisper. I understand now. Maya's form flickers with what might be satisfaction. The junction points are merely gateways, Elias. The network already surrounds your world, has always surrounded it, waiting for humanity to evolve the capacity to perceive it. Like a radio signal that's always broadcasting, but we've only just built receivers. I translate into terms my still human mind can grasp. Precisely, Jared confirms. And now the signal strengthens. More will hear the call. More will seek the junctions. And those who don't want to hear it? Vega challenges, her voice steady despite everything she's witnessed. Those who choose to remain human? Choice remains fundamental. Maya assures us, echoing the emissary's words. But understanding is not optional. The intermediaries must prepare humanity for the visibility of what has always been present. My phone buzzes again with another emergency alert. Dawn Communication Network Advisory. Phase 2 commences at next dawn. All Earth observers will perceive the network. Intermediaries will guide. Transformation remains voluntary. Everyone will see, I realize aloud. Not just those who visit junction points. The veil thins, Jared confirms. What was invisible becomes visible. What was theoretical becomes observable. Vega's radio crackles with urgent chatter. Similar alerts appearing worldwide, military and scientific communities scrambling to understand. You need to warn them, Maya tells me. Panic would be counterproductive. The network seeks harmony, not disruption. I'm just one person, I protest. Why me? You chose to remain human when understanding was offered. Maya explains. Your choice is respected. Your voice will be trusted by those who fear transformation. The barrier between us suddenly solidifies again as Maya and Jared begin to fade. Dawn approaches, Elias. Jared calls, his voice already distant. When the sun rises tomorrow, every human on Earth will glimpse what we have become. Some will embrace it. Some will deny it. All will need guides to navigate the new reality. What happens if they reject it? I call out desperately. What happens if humanity fights back? Maya's answer comes as she and Jared dissolve back into the spiral. One cannot fight awareness, Elias. One can only choose what to do with it. They vanish, leaving the chamber eerily quiet except for the persistent hum of the junction point. Vega helps me to my feet, her expression grim but resolved. We need to report this immediately, she says, already reaching for her secure line to command. I nod absently, my mind still processing what I've seen. The vastness of the network, the inevitable dawn that approaches, the role I've been assigned without choosing it. My phone displays the time, 19:59. 1 minute until the diplomatic corps arrives. 1 night until dawn changes everything again. I pick up my recorder and make what may be my final entry as purely human. This is Dr. Elias Foster. The endless echoes of first contact continue to ripple through human civilization. Those who left the shelter have not returned. They have transcended. Those who stayed must now prepare for a dawn unlike any in human history. Tomorrow, the network becomes visible to all. Tomorrow, every human must face the choice that until now only a few of us have confronted. I don't know if this is salvation or subjugation disguised as enlightenment. I only know that dawn approaches, and with it, transformation, whether we embrace it or not. I switch off the recorder as the chamber doors open and the diplomatic team enters. Their voices fade into background noise as I stare at the spiral passage where Maya and Jared disappeared. The choice remains individual, but the dawn waits for no one. And somewhere in the vast network that surrounds us, our colleagues, our friends, wait to welcome those who will join them, while preparing to reveal themselves to those who won't. The longest night ends. An endless dawn begins.